I sat in the chair, staring at the floor tiles because looking at Dr. Lucas's face felt dangerous. "Ethan," said, his voice slow like he was testing each word before letting it go. "The results are back. It's an autoimmune disorder." Blinked, like permanent. "It's a chronic condition. There's treatment." But I cut in before he could finish. "But it won't go away." His eyes softened. "You'll need to manage it for the rest of your life. With the right care, you can live normally. Live normally." The words didn't stick. I rubbed my palms together. "So, pain, fatigue, doctors forever? There will be flare-ups," he said. "It's unpredictable, but we'll work together. To keep it under control." I nodded, but my chest felt hollow. "Right, work together. Great." Dr. Lucas leaned forward. "I know this is a lot. You have support, right? Family? Friends?" "I've got Rachel," I said automatically, like saying her name would make her appear in the room. "Tell her. Let her in," he said gently. "You don't have to go through this alone." I gave a small, forced smile.
Hi.
"Yeah, I'll call her tonight." When I left the office, the air outside felt heavier than the one inside. My phone was already in my hand before I even reached the car. The first ring felt like hope. By the sixth, it sounded like goodbye. "Hey, it's Rachel. Leave a message." Hey, it's me," I said into the void. "Got some news from the doctor. Can you call me back? Please." My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated it. That night, my phone stayed face up on the table, screen lighting up with every meaningless notification, but not hers. By morning, my head hurt from replaying the conversation I imagined we'd have. At 11:15 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Rachel, I'll come by later," when she showed up. I opened the door so fast I almost tripped. "Thanks for coming." She stepped in, arms crossed like she was bracing for cold weather. "You said it was important." I gestured to the couch. "Sit, please." She sat, but didn't lean back. "What's going on?" I took a deep breath. "I went to the doctor yesterday. They ran tests. Turns out I have an autoimmune disorder. It's not going away." We're lips pressed together. What does that even mean? "It means my body's attacking itself. I'll have flare-ups. I'll need treatment, probably forever." She stared at the floor. "So, but you'll be sick for life." "Managed, not sick," I said quickly. "It's not a death sentence. Just something I'll live with." Her eyes flicked up to mine, then away. "Ethan, that's a lot, I know, but I'm still me." I leaned forward. "We can handle this, right?" She didn't answer right away. Her hands twisted in her lap. "I don't think I can." The words hit harder than the diagnosis. "What?" "I'm sorry, I just can't do this, Rachel." My voice cracked again. "You mean you can't do me with this?" "It's not like that," she said, standing up. "Then tell me what it's like." Her jaw tightened. "I'm 27. I want a life that's not about hospitals and meds. I want stability." "So stability means ditching me when things get messy?" "Don't make this harder," she said quietly. "Harder? You're walking out while I'm still processing the fact my body's broken? How much harder do you want me to make it?" She shook her head. "I don't know what to say. Try starting with 'I'm staying.'" "I can't." The silence between us stretched until I thought it might snap finally. She walked toward the door. 3 years, Rachel," I said. 3 years and this is it? You hear the worst thing in my life and decide it's your exit cue?" Her hand paused on the doorknob. "I'm sorry." "No," I said, my throat burning. "You're relieved." She didn't turn around. The door closed with a soft click, but it felt like a slam in my chest. I stood there, staring at the space where she'd been. My body felt heavier than the diagnosis, heavier than anything. The phone on the table buzzed. A text from Tyler. "Dude, you good? Want to grab lunch?" I typed, "Not today?" Deleted it. Typed, "Yeah," deleted it again. Finally, I turned the phone face down. The apartment felt too quiet, like the air had been sucked out. I sat on the couch, elbows on my knees, and pressed my palms to my eyes. In my head, I could still hear her voice. "I can't do this." I whispered to the empty room, "Neither can I." Tyler slid into the booth across from me, a fry hanging from his mouth. You look like a zombie that's been rejected by other zombies. I appreciate the poetry, I muttered, staring at my untouched burger. He waved a fry at me. It's been what, 3 weeks? You still haven't heard from her? I shook my head. Not a word, not a text, nothing. Then screw her, he said, popping the fry into his mouth. You think sitting in your apartment is going to make her magically realize she's wrong? I'm not waiting for her, I lied. Tyler snorted. Yeah, okay. And I'm Brad Pitt. I sighed, leaning back against the booth. It's just the way she left, like I was already gone. He leaned forward. Man, she showed you exactly who she is. Believe her. I know, I said quietly. Doesn't make it easier. Tyler gestured around the diner. We used to come here after high school football games. You'd inhale 3 pancakes and still steal my fries. That guy didn't care about anything except writing stories and playing guitar. What happened to him? He got diagnosed. I said flatly. Wrong, Tyler said. He let someone else's reaction to that diagnosis define him. The words stung, but I couldn't deny them. I'm trying, Ty. I just can't focus. I open my laptop, stare at the manuscript, and nothing comes. Then stop staring, he said. Do something else. Anything else. I gave him a look. You're not a therapist. Exactly. Which means I can tell you to get your crap together without charging you $200 an hour. A faint smile pulled at my lips. Thanks, man, he grinned. That's the first time you've smiled in weeks. You're welcome. That night, I sat at my desk. Laptop open, fingers resting on the keys. The cursor blinked like it was taunting. Me. I typed 3 words, deleted them, then pushed the laptop shut. My phone buzzed. Grace. Hey, I answered. Her voice was soft but firm. Tyler says you're not doing great. I frowned. Since when do you two talk? Since I asked him to check on you, she said. You haven't been answering my calls. I've been busy. Lying to your little sister. Wow, we've hit a new low. I sighed. I just didn't want to talk about it. You don't have to talk about her, Grace said. But you can talk about you. How are you really? I don't know, I admitted. Numb, stuck, like my life paused the day she left and hasn't started again. Grace was quiet for a moment. You know what Mom used to say about pain? Gave a humorless laugh. Yeah, that it's just another story waiting to be told. Exactly, so tell it, or at least try. Sitting in silence is only going to make it louder. Her words settled in the air between us. I'll think about it, I said finally. Promise me something, she said. What? That. You won't disappear on me too. I swallowed hard. I promise. The next morning I found myself back at the diner. Tyler raised an eyebrow when he saw me walk in. Well. Back for more fries? Back for the noise, I said, sliding into the booth. It's better than the silence at home, he smirked. That's deep. Writing that down? Not yet, I said, but maybe. He shoved the ketchup bottle toward me. So what's the plan, Ethan? I shrugged. Maybe I start writing again. Or maybe I just write about not writing. It's actually a thing, Tyler said. Met this dude once who wrote an entire short story about a guy staring at a blank page. Won awards for it? Yeah, I asked. Yeah. Probably made more money than we will in our entire lives, he said, grinning. I laughed for real this time. It felt strange, like using a muscle I hadn't touched in weeks. Tyler leaned back. There it is. It's the sound of you not being pathetic for once. Don't get used to it, I said, but the warmth lingered. That night I opened my laptop again. This time I didn't force myself to work on the manuscript. I just typed whatever came to mind. Fragments, conversations, even the exact words. Rachel had said to me, the room was silent except for the clacking of keys. And for the first time in weeks, that silence didn't hurt. I sat at the kitchen table with a blank sheet of paper. At the laptop this time, paper. Something about scratching ink into it felt more final. I wrote her name first. Rachel. Rachel, you broke me. I paused, tapping the pen against the page. Rachel. You walked away when I needed you the most. My hand moved faster. Words poured out. Anger, confusion, the questions that kept me awake at night. How could you leave? How could you throw away 3 years like they meant nothing? The pen dug into the paper. By the time I stopped, my hand was shaking. I read it once, twice. Every line was honest, raw, ugly. It wasn't a love letter. It was a wound on paper. I folded it, slid it into an envelope, and stared at it for a long time. The phone sat next to me, silent. I picked it up, thumb hovering over her name in my contacts. Don't, I muttered to myself. I looked back at the letter. This won't change anything. Tore it in half, then in half again. The next morning, I carried the pieces outside to the dumpster. Mrs. Whitman was out watering her roses, wearing the same sun hat she'd had since I was a kid. "Morning, Ethan," she called. "Morning," I said, tossing the shredded paper into the trash. She glanced at the torn pieces spilling over the edge. That looked personal, just something I needed to get rid of. Her eyes crinkled. "A letter." I gave a small shrug, kind of. "One I'm not sending." She leaned on her watering can. "Some letters are meant for the fire, not the mailbox." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Sometimes writing is for you, not for them. Sending it would have given her power over your words. Burning it keeps that power for yourself." I hadn't thought about it that way. "So, it's not a waste," she smiled. "It's a release. The waste would have been sending it." I crossed my arms. "You ever done that?" "Oh, plenty of times," she said. "Wrote a letter to my sister once. Told her every awful thing I thought about her. Then I lit it up and made s'mores over the flames." I laughed despite myself. "That's one way to do it." "Better than letting the poison sit inside you," she said. I nodded slowly. "Guess I just wanted her to know how much she hurt me." "She already knows," Mrs. Whitman said. "But you need to know you can survive without her knowing every detail." Her words sank in deeper than I expected. Later that day, I sat back at the kitchen table, staring at another blank sheet. This time, I didn't write to Rachel. I wrote to no one in particular. It started small, just describing the silence in my apartment. It's the way the light hit the wall in the evening. The way my chest felt heavy, but not crushing anymore. The words didn't hurt as much going down this time. Tyler called halfway through. "You busy? Kinda?" I said. "Doing what?" "Brooding? Staring out the window?" "Writing," I said. There was a pause. "Wait, like actually writing?" "Yeah." He let out a low whistle. "Finally. What about?" "Not sure yet. Just whatever comes." "Good," he said. "Don't overthink it." When I hung up, I kept going. Rachel directly just about leaving things unsent, about fires that burn quietly but cleanly. By the time I put the pen down, my hand ached, but my head felt clearer. That evening, took out the trash. Mrs. Whitman was still outside clipping. "Dead roses? Did you burn it?" she asked. "Dumpster?" I said. "No s'mores." She chuckled. "Well, next time." I hesitated. "Thanks for earlier. I think you were right." "I'm always right," she said, eyes twinkling. "But what about keeping the words for myself?" I said. "Feels better that way." Shh. Nodded. "You'll write better things when you're not writing to wound someone." I thought about that long after I went back inside. Maybe I didn't need Rachel to read my pain for it to matter. Maybe the act of writing it was enough. The rain had started as a drizzle when I left my apartment. But by the time I turned the corner, it was coming down hard enough to soak through my hoodie. I ducked into the first open doorway I saw, shaking the water from my sleeves. That's when I realized it was a bookstore, a tiny one, with shelves that leaned like they'd been there longer than I'd been alive. "Rough day?" a voice called, from behind the counter. I turned. She was leaning on her elbows, a mug in one hand, short dark hair tucked behind her ear. She had the kind of calm presence that made you feel like she'd already figured you out. "Something like that," I said. She glanced at the notebook under my arm. "You write?" "Not anymore?" Her eyebrow lifted. "Used to." "That's a shame." I hesitated. "Why?" "Because quitting something you love usually means you're either too scared or too hurt to keep going," she said. I gave a small laugh. Wow. Jumping straight to psychoanalysis. She smiled. Occupational hazard. I talk to strangers all day. Stepped closer to the counter. You always this blunt with customers? Only the ones carrying a notebook they pretend isn't important, she said. Sipping her coffee, I looked down at it, feeling oddly caught. It's not a big deal. If it wasn't, you wouldn't be holding it like it's breakable. Words hung there heavier than I expected. I shrugged. It's been a while since I wrote anything worth reading. She tilted her head. Worth reading to who? You or someone else? I didn't have an answer. She didn't push. Instead, she nodded toward a small table by the window. Sit. Warm up. Pretend you're here for the coffee, not the books. I found myself doing exactly that, watching raindrops race each other down the glass. You live around here? She asked, settling across from me with her mug. Yeah, a few blocks over. You should come by more often. We host open mics. Sometimes poetry, short stories, good crowd. I smirked. And you think I'd just read something? I think you'd surprise yourself, she said, eyes steady on mine. I leaned back. What's your name? Sophie? Ethan? Well, Ethan, if you ever decide to stop punishing yourself, you know where to find me. Punishing myself? Not writing, she said simply. I didn't argue. But the truth was, her words hit harder than I wanted to admit. When I left, the rain had eased, but her voice stayed with me. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at the blinking cursor on my laptop. The old habit of opening a blank document felt almost foreign. My fingers hovered over the keys, unsure where to start. Then I thought of Sophie's challenge. I didn't write about fictional characters or made-up worlds. I wrote about me. The diagnosis. The cold hands in that doctor's office. Way Rachel. Wouldn't answer my calls. Sound of her saying she couldn't do this. My chest tightened, but I kept typing. Hours passed before I realized it. Pages filled with sentences that weren't perfect, but they were honest. The next day I went. Back to the bookstore. Sophie was behind the counter again. Back so soon? She said, smiling. I wrote something, I blurted. Her eyes lit up. Yeah, don't get too excited. It's rough. Rough is better than silent, she said. I leaned on the counter. You really think it's worth doing again? I think it's worth not stopping, she replied. I nodded slowly. You're annoyingly convincing, she grinned. I hear that a lot. I didn't notice how late it was until my wrist cramped. The cursor blinked at the bottom of the page. My fingers still hovering over the keys. Man, you're still at it. Tyler's voice came from behind me. He leaned on my doorway, holding 2 mugs of coffee. Couldn't sleep, I muttered, rubbing my hand. Thought I'd keep going. He stepped in and placed a mug beside me. You've been at it every night this week. Let me see. I hesitated. It's not ready. Tyler smirked. Neither was my first pancake, but you still ate it. He slid the pages from my desk before I could stop him and dropped into my chair. Tyler, let me read. I watched his eyes scan line after line. He wasn't grinning like he usually did when he was about to make a joke. He just kept reading, his brow creasing, his jaw tightening. After a few minutes, he set the pages down. Man, this is raw. People need to hear this. I scoffed. People need to hear. Me whining? That's not whining. That's bleeding on paper. I shook my head. It's just for me. A way too. I don't know, get it out. Or Tyler leaned forward. It's a way for someone else to feel like they're not alone. I laughed it off. Sure, because my little mess of words is going to change the world. Not the whole world, he said, but maybe someone's. His. Words stuck with me longer than I wanted to admit. After he left, I stared at the blinking cursor, wondering if he might be right. The next afternoon, I sat across from Dr. Lucas in his office, tapping my notebook with my pen. You've been writing again? He asked, noticing the notebook in my lap. I nodded. Every night, sometimes until 2 in the morning. That's progress, he said, smiling. How does it feel? I shrugged. Better than not writing, I guess. Writing can be a form of mental training, Dr. Lucas said. Like lifting weights for your thoughts. The more you express, the more space you make inside yourself. That's poetic, I said. It's true. Physical health is important, but mental strength. He tapped his temple. That's what carries you when your body and heart feel heavy. I'm not sure I'm strong yet. You're showing up for yourself every night. That's strength. I looked down at my hands, suddenly aware of the faint ache in my knuckles from typing. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just picking at a wound. Or, Dr. Lucas said gently, you're cleaning it so it can heal. Later that week, Grace called while I was in the middle of rewriting a paragraph. Hey, stranger, she said. You still alive? Barely, I joked. Been busy? With what? Writing. There was a pause. Wait, you're writing again? Yeah, every night. That's... wow. I'm proud of you. The sincerity in her voice caught me off guard. Proud? For what? Until my hands hurt. For trying, she said simply. For not letting the silence swallow you whole? I leaned back in my chair. It's not like I'm going to publish it. You don't have to, she replied. But maybe one day you will. Or maybe you'll just read it and realize you survived. Her words made my throat tighten. Grace, thanks. Friday evening, Tyler convinced me to meet him for dinner. I want you to meet someone, said as we walked into the restaurant. Tyler, if this is a setup, it's not, he promised. We reached the table, and a tall guy with an easy smile stood to shake my hand. Ethan, right? I'm Caleb. Hey, I said cautiously. Caleb's a poet, Tyler said. Caleb chuckled. Not the kind that wears a beret and reads under a spotlight. I just write about things I can't say out loud. That sounded uncomfortably familiar. What? I asked. Losing my brother? Fighting cancer? The nights I thought I wouldn't see morning. Something in his tone made me lean in. You write that down? Every bit of it, Caleb said. I thought it was just therapy for me, but when I started sharing, people reached out saying it helped them. Tyler glanced at me with a smug look like, see? I frowned. Wasn't it terrifying? Was putting all that out there? Yeah, Caleb admitted. But pain kept me quiet for too long. Words gave me a way out. That sentence stayed with me the rest of the night. When I got home, I sat in front of my laptop without even changing clothes. The pages I'd written so far stared back at me, aching, unpolished. I placed my hands on the keys. This time, I didn't write about fictional heroes or made-up towns. I wrote about the hospital smell that clung to me for weeks. The day Rachel walked away without looking back, about the way my diagnosis felt like a life sentence and a punchline all at once. The words came fast, like they'd been waiting for permission. By midnight, my fingers ached and my eyes burned. But my chest felt lighter. I thought of Tyler's voice. It's bleeding on paper. Dr. Lucas's reminder, you're cleaning the wound. Grace's quiet pride. Caleb's courage. Maybe I wasn't strong yet, but I was writing my way there. I was reaching for a jar of pasta sauce when I heard her laugh. It was that same light, melodic sound I used to wake up to, only now it made my stomach twist. I turned, and there she was. Rachel, holding hands with a tall, polished man in a crisp navy suit. For a moment, my brain refused to connect the dots. Then she looked up and saw me. Ethan. Her voice carried the kind of surprise you can't fake. Wow. Hi. Hi, I managed, my mouth suddenly dry. The man beside her looked at me, then at her. Babe, is this? This is Ethan, she said quickly. An old friend. I almost laughed. Old friend, that's new. Her fingers tightened around his hand. This is Mark. Mark extended his free hand, polite but guarded. Man, I shook it. His grip was firm, calculated. Mark. Rachel cleared her throat. So, how have you been? Fine. The word came out sharper than I intended. Good, she said, glancing at Mark. Really good. Mark smiled down at her, then back at me. Ow. Should get going, Ratch. Your parents are waiting. Ratch, the nickname, stabbed me like a shard of glass. Right? She said, stepping back. It was good to see you, Ethan. I forced a nod. You too. They walked away, her hand still in his, her head tilted toward him like she'd tilted toward me once. I stood there for a full minute, my heart pounding in my ears. Then I tossed the jar of pasta sauce into my cart and left before I could throw. Up in aisle 5, that night, I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't check my phone. I sat at my desk, staring at a blank page. Tyler knocked and poked his head in. "You good?" I didn't look up. "Saw Rachel today." His eyebrows lifted, and she was with some guy. Mark, suit, perfect hair, probably drives something. German and expensive. Ouch. He stepped inside. "What did she say? Good to see you?" I mimicked her tone. It's like we used to trade staplers at work instead of, everything. Tyler sat on the edge of my bed. "How'd that feel?" "Like being erased," I said. He studied me for a beat. "So, are you going to let it eat you alive, or what?" Snapped. "Or turn it into something you've been writing, right? Use it?" I leaned back in my chair. "Use it. Yeah. Make her the villain. Make the guy a cardboard cutout with a Rolex. Bleed it all out on paper." I smirked despite myself. "You're disturbingly good at this. Paint is art, man. Go make a masterpiece." I stared at the blinking cursor until midnight, the scene replaying in my head, the way she squeezed his hand, the way she said, "Ratch," the way she looked past me like I was a ghost she once knew. My fingers finally started moving. He stood beside her, tall and polished, like a man who'd never scraped the bottom. His hand rested on hers like it belonged there, like it always had. She smiled, but it wasn't the smile she used to give me. It was brighter, freer, as if I'd been the anchor and he was the wind. I kept typing. Words poured out faster than I could think. By 2 a.m., I had 5 pages the next day at my checkup. Dr. Lucas leaned back in his chair after glancing at my vitals. "You look different." "Different how? Lighter," he said. "Like someone opened a window in your head." I laughed softly. "Maybe. I saw Rachel yesterday." His eyebrows rose. "And that didn't make you heavier?" "It did, but it also made me write." "Ah," he nodded. "You're channeling it, I guess." He said, "mental resilience isn't about never being hurt. It's about deciding what to do with the hurt." I mulled that over. "So I'm on the right track." "You're turning pain into purpose," he said. "It's a powerful place to be." Later that afternoon, Grace came over with coffee. She handed me a cup. "You look tired. Were you up late?" "Writing," I said, taking a sip. Her eyes lit up. "About what?" Hesitated. "About Rachel. And being replaced?" She set her coffee down. "Can I read it?" I slid the pages across the table. She read silently, her eyes scanning quickly. By the 3rd page, her lips pressed together. When she finished, she looked at me. "Ethan, this is wow. I'm proud of you." The words hit me harder than I expected. Proud. "Hey, yeah," she said, smiling. "You're not running from the pain anymore." "You're staring it down," I let out a breath. "Feels like it's staring back." "Then keep staring," she said. "Eventually it'll blink." That evening, as I saved the file on my laptop, I noticed something. Didn't feel hollow. Anymore, I felt like the hurt wasn't just sitting there. It was doing something. Mark could have her hand. Rachel could have her smile, but I had my words. They were starting to bleed beautifully. Sophie leaned across the table, eyes bright. "Ethan, you can't just let that manuscript collect dust." "I know someone, Claire Rivers. She's a literary agent." I laughed under my breath. "An agent. That's ambitious." "She's good." "The real deal?" "I can email her for you." "Sophie, my book is just me bleeding onto paper. It's not exactly marketable." "That's exactly why it's marketable," she said, stabbing the air with her pen. "People crave truth." "Yeah," wrote yours. I stared at the coffee swirling in my cup. "You think she'd even read it?" "I think she'd devour it," she replied. "What's the worst that happens?" "She says no. You've already survived worse." Smirked, shaking my head. "You're annoyingly convincing." "Annoyingly effective," she corrected, sliding her phone toward me. "Email her. Tonight." I didn't promise, but that night, after staring at my laptop for an hour, I sent it. No expectations, No hope, just sent. A week later, my phone buzzed while I was folding laundry. Unknown number. Hello, Ethan Cole. A warm, confident voice. Yes, this is Clara Rivers. Sophie sent me your manuscript. I froze, sock in hand. Oh, right. Hi. I read it in one sitting, she said. Your writing is brutally honest and unforgettable. I'd like to represent you. I blinked at the wall. Represent me. And actually be my agent. That's the idea, she said lightly. Your voice is rare. People will connect with it. I sat down on the edge of the couch. I don't even know what to say. Say yes, she replied. We'll discuss edits, proposals, publishers, but I believe this can go far, as I heard myself say. Absolutely yes. Good. I'll email you the contract. Congratulations, Ethan. When the call ended, I just sat there, laundry forgotten. The hum of the fridge suddenly deafening. Tyler showed up 20 minutes later, somehow already knowing. You got an agent? He shouted before even shutting the door. I nodded slowly. Apparently, dude, that's huge. He dropped a grocery bag on the counter and pulled out a bottle of champagne. I was saving this for, well, I don't know. But this qualifies. I'm still processing, I said, rubbing my temple. Processing? Should be dancing on the table right now? I don't dance on tables. Then you drink champagne on the couch. He popped the cork, the sound exploding through the apartment. 2. Ethan finally getting his shot. I took the glass, staring at the bubbles. It doesn't feel real. It's real, he said, clinking his glass against mine. You've been through hell, and you wrote your way out. Now, people get to read it. I took a sip, the fizz sharp on my tongue. Part of me still thinks it's a fluke. Tyler shook his head. Nope. Sophie didn't send Clara a pity project. She sent her the real deal. You. I looked away, the words hitting deeper than I expected. Later, I called Sophie, so she answered. Do I get to say I told you so now? Or should I wait until you're on a bestseller list? I laughed. You can say it now. I told you so, she sang into the phone. Clara's one of the best. You're in good hands. I'm still kind of in shock, I admitted. Enjoy it, she said. Moments like this don't come around often. Feels like I finally have some control again. I said quietly, you do. And you earned it. Her words stuck with me long. After we hung up that night, I opened the manuscript again, scrolling through pages I'd read 100 times. Except now, they looked different, like they weren't just mine anymore. Like they were on their way to becoming something larger. The cursor blinked at me, patient. I started typing, not edits, but a note. For everyone who's ever thought they were broken beyond repair, you're not. I didn't know if it would stay in the book, but I knew it had to be written. The next morning, Clara emailed me her suggested changes, small things. Tighten this paragraph. Add a line of dialogue here. She understood my voice without dulling it. We set a call for the weekend. I'd never been excited for a meeting before. When Tyler stopped by again, he found me at the desk, actually smiling. While working, who are you? He teased. And what have you done with the guy who avoided his laptop for months? He's gone, I said, not looking up. I think I'm keeping this version. Tyler grinned. Good, this one's a lot more fun to be around. That evening, I walked to Sophie's bookstore. She was restocking a shelf. You're glowing, she said as I approached. It's the fluorescent lighting, I deadpanned. No, she said, tapping my chest. It's in here, I chuckled. Don't get poetic on me. Too late. I work in a bookstore. It's a hazard. We talked about next steps, deadlines. Marketing words I'd never imagined applying to my life. Before leaving, I told her, thanks for pushing me. I wouldn't have done this without you, she smiled. You would have. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but you would have. I just sped things up. Walking home, the air felt lighter, like the weight I'd been carrying had shifted. Not gone, but no longer crushing me. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving. I was moving forward. Clara's voice came through the phone like she'd been holding her breath for days. Ethan, we have a deal. I blinked. At my kitchen wall? A deal? With who? Everhart Publishing. One of the top literary houses in the country. They read your manuscript, and they want it. Full release, hardcover, paperback, ebook. I laughed it because it was funny, but because my brain couldn't process words in that order. You're kidding. Do I sound like I'm kidding? This is the real thing. Congratulations, author. The word stuck to me like it belonged there. Author. I pressed my hand against the counter to steady myself. So what happens now? Now, she said, we edit. Months of refining every sentence until it cuts exactly where it's supposed. 2. You're ready for that? I almost told her no, that I didn't know if I had the stamina. But instead, I heard myself say, yeah, let's do it. For the next 3 months, my life was red ink and late nights. Clara would send back chapters with notes that felt like riddles. This line is good, but what if you bled a little more here? The pain is real, but where's the hope? Some nights I sat in the dark with my laptop staring at the blinking cursor until my chest hurt. Other nights the words poured out so fast I barely stopped to breathe. One morning Clara called, Ethan, we've got an early reader request. From who? Harper Lee. I almost dropped my coffee. The Harper Lee. The influencer with 3.2 million followers? Yes. She's doing a Books That Break You series next month. She wants your novel as part of it. Why? I'm nobody, not anymore. 2 weeks later, Harper posted a video. She was sitting cross-legged on her bed, holding my book like it was an artifact. This, she said into the camera, is the rawest. It's the most painfully honest thing I've read in years. It's not just a story, it's a mirror. And you're going to see yourself in it, whether you want to or not. I watched the view counter climb 50,000, 100,000, 500,000. Comments flooded in. Pre-ordering now. Sounds like it's going to wreck me in the best way. Who is this Ethan guy? Tyler stormed into my apartment, holding his phone. Shh. You're trending on Twitter? I stared at him. You're kidding? Nope. People are quoting you already. Stuff you wrote in your worst nights? It's out there, man, and they're eating it up. I leaned back on the couch, a strange mix of terror and pride swelling inside me. What if they hate it when they read? The whole thing. Tyler shook his head. They won't. Because it's real. And real always hits. At my next session, Dr. Lucas was already smiling when I walked in. I've been seeing your name everywhere, he said, motioning for me to sit. Yeah. I muttered. Apparently my pain makes good content. He leaned forward, his voice steady. Don't cheapen it like that. You didn't just exploit your pain, you transformed it. That's alchemy, Ethan. I laughed softly. Alchemy. Acme? Yes. Taking something dark and heavy and turning it into something that gives light to others. Do you realize how rare that is? I stared at my hands. I didn't think I could do anything with it. I thought it would just stay inside me forever. And now it's out. And look, you're still here. I swallowed hard, feeling something uncoil in my chest. Clara. Called again later that week. Pre-orders are up 2,000% since Harper's post. The publisher wants to fast-track your marketing campaign. You might need to do interviews. Interviews? My voice cracked, like on camera. Yes, people are going to want your face with your words. That's terrifying. She laughed. You'll be fine. Just tell the truth. That's what got you here. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at the contract framed on my wall. 3 months ago, it was a blank screen. 6 months ago, I was barely getting out of bed. Now strangers were waiting for my words like they were medicine. I opened the manuscript again, ran my fingers over the trackpad, typed one new sentence, something that had been in my head since. The first night, I decided to write, the worst thing they did to you can become the best thing you give to the world. I sat back, reading it out loud. It didn't sound like a line from a book. It sounded like my life. When I finally closed my laptop, my phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Saw a girl on the subway reading your arc. She was crying. You did that? I didn't reply right away. I just stared at the message until the screen went black, for the first time in a long time. The weight in my chest didn't feel like something crushing. MIT felt like something I could lift. The email subject line hit me like a drumbeat. Your book launch event details inside. I opened it. scanning the neat paragraphs about venue time and anticipated guests. My palms got damp before I even finished reading. Tyler, I called, leaning into the kitchen. They want me to speak, like in front of actual people. He peeked over the fridge door. It's your launch, man. Of course you're speaking. Thought it'd just be signing books, smiling, leaving. He smirked. You're adorable when you panic. Sit down. Let's talk. I can't. I shook my head. Public speaking terrifies me. That's because you're picturing the audience naked. I frowned. That's not even fine, he cut in.
Hey.
Then picture them holding your book, waiting to hear your voice. That's better. I slumped into a chair. It's not the same as writing in my apartment where no one's looking at me. Tyler tossed me a bottle of water. You survived everything else this year. You can survive a microphone. I tried to laugh, but it came out tight. If I mess up, forget what to say, then you improvise. People like honesty. And if you freeze, I'll stand up and fake a coughing fit so you can regroup. That made me grin. You'd actually do that? In a heartbeat. I nodded slowly, letting the idea settle. All right, I'll do it. Atta boy. He raised his coffee mug like a toast. I opened my laptop, determined to draft something, anything. The words came in bursts. Gratitude, pain, the long nights. But every time I pictured standing there, the stage lights felt hotter in my imagination. Days passed like that, writing, crossing out, rewriting. My nerves didn't fade. Then, 3 days before the event, my phone buzzed. A text notification. The name on the screen stopped my breathing. Rachel, I stared at it until Tyler wandered in. You look like you've seen a ghost. Screened toward him, his eyebrows shot up. What does she want? The message was short. I heard about your book. I'd like to talk. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't type. You're not answering? Tyler asked. No. My voice was sharper than I expected. Not now. She might want to apologize. She might want a lot of things, I said, setting the phone face down. Doesn't mean I have to give them to her. Fair? He said carefully. But you okay? I'm fine. I wasn't. That night the text replayed in my mind like a song I hated but couldn't stop humming. I got up at midnight, opened my notebook, and let the words Spillingar, vindication. The sharp satisfaction of knowing I didn't need her acknowledgement anymore. By morning, I had the opening lines of my speech. When you've been replaced, you start to believe you're disposable. But sometimes what feels like the end is just the rough draft. Sophie called later, voice bright. I hear the speech is coming along, something like that. Nervous, terrified. That's good, she said. Means you care. Sighed. You think people will actually listen? They will. They want to hear the story behind the story? Give them that. Her faith in me steadied something deep inside. I'll try. You'll do more than try. The day before the launch, Clara called. Everything's set. We're expecting a good turnout. Media, too. My stomach dropped. Media, you'll be great, she assured me. Just breathe. But remember, they're here because they believe in your words. When we hung up, Tyler was watching me from the couch. You're pale, Media. He grinned. You're about to be famous. That's not comforting. Then let me put it this way. You're about to own your story in front of everyone who matters. I sat beside him, staring at the floor. I keep thinking about Rachel's text about her showing up. You think she will? I don't know. But if she does, I'm not breaking. Not now. Good, he said. 'Cause this is your night, not hers. I nodded. And for the first time in days, the thought of the stage didn't feel like a punishment tit, felt like a platform that night. I read my speech aloud to the empty living room. When you've been replaced, voice shook at first, then steadied. You start to believe you're disposable. Sometimes what feels like the end is just the rough draft. And if you keep writing through the heartbreak, through the silence, you'll realize you are always the main character. Tyler clapped from the kitchen doorway. Chills, man. Absolute chills. You think it's enough? I think it's perfect. I smiled, feeling the weight in my chest shift. Tomorrow, I'd face the lights, the questions, maybe even Rachel. But tonight, I just felt ready. The bookstore smelled like paper and coffee, the kind of place where stories live. Sophie stood near the signing table, her smile bright and steady like a lighthouse. "Ready, Ethan?" she asked. I nodded, swallowing hard. Tyler was already behind his phone, recording, his grin contagious, but nerves hiding beneath. The crowd was bigger than I expected. Faces blurred, but I could hear their quiet murmurs, their anticipation. My eyes landed on her Rachel, standing in the back, tears running down her cheeks. My heart slammed. Every instinct screamed, call her out, say something. But I didn't. I stepped up to the mic, gripping the notes I'd scribbled. The room quieted. "Thank you all for coming," I started, voice steady despite the storm inside me. "This book, it's my story, my pain, my hope." I cleared my throat and began reading from the chapter I dreaded most the night Rachel left. I remember that night like it's burned into me. The way she looked at me not with love, but with fear. "Can't do this, Ethan," she said, and then she walked away. A gasp rippled through the crowd. I took a breath and pressed on. She didn't wait for explanations, didn't wait for me to fall apart. She left, leaving me to face my diagnosis and my heartbreak alone. Rachel sniffled audibly. I felt every eye in the room on me, some glistening with tears, others wide with shock. She ghosted me when I needed her most. And yet here I stand still writing, still fighting. My voice cracked, but I forced myself forward. I wrote this book not for her, but for anyone who's ever been left behind. For anyone who's felt like they weren't enough. Rachel wiped her eyes and quietly slipped out. I finished the chapter. In silence, my voice barely above a whisper. When I looked up, the room was still. Then, one by one, the applause began soft at first. Then, swelling, Sophie was beaming. Tyler caught my eye and gave me a thumbs dash up. I sat down at the signing table, hands trembling, but heart lighter. The night wasn't about revenge. It was about telling my truth, and maybe, just maybe, healing. I woke up to the dull buzz of my phone on the nightstand. Groggy, I reached for it, expecting the usual flood of notifications, but one caught my eye, Rachel. My heart thudded before I even unlocked the screen. The message was long, more than a simple, "Hey, Ethan," it began. I don't even know where to start. I'm sorry. I panicked that night, and I ran. I never stopped caring, even when I acted like I did. I was scared for you, for myself, for everything falling apart. I want to talk, if you'll let me. I blinked. My hands trembled as I scrolled back up to read it again. "Rachel's texting," I said aloud, though the room was empty. Tyler peeked his head around the door. And I swallowed hard. "It's a long message. Does it sound real?" "Yeah, more than I expected." He nodded slowly. "So what are you going to do?" "I don't know." Stared at the words on my phone like they were a puzzle I wasn't sure I wanted to solve. Maybe she's finally ready to face the truth. "Maybe," I said, voice low. "But I'm not the same guy I was." Tyler sat down beside me. "Good, you don't have to be." I spent the morning rereading her message, each time feeling less like I was unraveling and more like I was closing a chapter. I typed a reply, then erased it. Typed again, erased. Why was I even considering it? It wasn't about holding on to anger anymore. It wasn't about revenge or even forgiveness. It was about me, about self-respect. Later, Sophie called. "You all right? I heard about the message." "I'm okay," conflicted. "That's normal. Yeah, I guess I always thought closure meant some kind of conversation. But maybe it doesn't? What if closure is just realizing you don't need it?" Her words hit me harder than I expected. "I think I'm ready to move forward." "Good, because your story isn't finished yet." That evening, I sat with Tyler, looking at the city lights through my window. "Have you thought about replying?" he asked. "I have, but I'm not going to." He smiled. "I'm proud of you." "It's not about being proud." I shook my head. "It's about knowing my worth." I don't need her apology to feel whole. Tyler raised his glass. To that, I clinked mine back. Later that night, I drafted a new chapter for my book. This one, about choosing yourself. About walking away without bitterness. About healing on your own terms. I wrote, sometimes, the hardest love is the one you give to yourself. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Want me to continue with the final chapter or epilogue? The morning light spilled over my desk, casting long shadows across the stack of books. I stared at my phone, Rachel's message still glowing on the screen. For a long moment, I just watched it, then my thumb hovered over the delete button. I hesitated, then pressed it. It vanished. No looking back. I set the phone down gently and rubbed my hands over my face. Oh, the weight in my chest that I didn't even realize was there started to lift. My phone buzzed. New message from Sophie. Congrats. Ethan, you did this. Is proud of you. I smiled, fingers trembling as I typed back. Thanks, Sophie. Couldn't have done it without you. A few seconds later, another buzz. Tyler, celebrate tonight. My treat. I laughed softly. Oh, yeah, I need that. Later, Tyler came over with 2 beers and a grin that couldn't be wiped off. You're different, he said, handing me a bottle. I feel different, I admitted, popping the cap. Because you are. You survived the storm. I took a long drink. It wasn't about revenge. It was survival. Moving forward, Tyler nodded, raising his bottle. To new beginnings. To new beginnings, I echoed, clinking my bottle against his. I looked. Back at the books on my desk, each one a piece of my journey, the nights I wrote when the pain was too much. The mornings I woke unsure if I'd keep going. They weren't trophies or weapons. They were proof. Proof that I chose myself. Sophie's voice came through the phone that evening. You know, Ethan, this is more than just a book. It's a life. Yours. I breathed out a laugh. Feels like the first time I've owned it. Good. Because you deserve that. The next morning, I stepped outside. The sun was warm on my face, and the city buzzed around me. But I felt light as if the past year's weight had finally been lifted. Tyler met me at the corner. You ready? He asked. I nodded. More than ever, he smiled. Then let's make this the start of something better. As we walked away from the bookstore, away from the past, I knew one thing for sure. This was the life I choose. It's been a year since my book launch. My second manuscript sits open on my laptop, pages still blank but ideas buzzing in my mind. Like electricity. I'm no longer writing from a place of raw pain, but from a space of quiet strength. The memories of those dark days don't sting as sharply anymore. They're there, sure like old scars, but they don't define me. Sophie dropped by this afternoon. She smiled, scanning my half-finished notes. Looks like you're back in the game, she said. I am. Feels good to write again, I told her, tapping the keyboard. But this time it's different. I'm writing for me not because I have to, but because I want to. She nodded, proud. That's how it should be. Later I went for a walk. The park was alive with spring blooms, the air warm and promising. As I crossed the street near the coffee shop, I saw her Rachel. She was standing outside waiting for a friend. Our eyes met, and she smiled faintly, almost shyly. I smiled back and gave a small nod. No words, no explanations, just an understanding. That moment told me everything I needed to know. I'm more than what I've lost. I'm more than the heartbreak, the betrayal, the silence. I'm the story I choose to write. When I got home, I opened my laptop and stared at the blank page. I typed the first line. This is the story of a man who lost everything and found himself. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid to see where it would lead.